So right now, I believe we have something special. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so hold on. This is really exciting to me. And I'm just gonna tell you that this alumni is not really probably that happy with his former head of school, because I'm actually going to ask him to come and sort of do his senior thesis live for you again. That's a huge undertaking. So I want you to see what we're working to produce. Now, this student is not perfect. He would never say he's perfect, and he's not going to present this like he did necessarily when he was doing it for his grade in rhetoric. And I know he was a little reluctant because he was like, oh, I've already done this. Are you really going to make me do it again? And I said, do you believe in your topic? Do you really believe this is something that's needed? Then come present. Persuade this audience. Persuade this audience. Because you are the ones who, if you are persuaded, it will make an enormous impact in how we teach and how we function as a school at Jayamangsa. So this is the portrait of a graduate. He is embodying the graduate because he is a graduate. And we're going to look later and compare, do we see these elements of a graduate in his life? Because he's a fresh graduate. He just had Mr. Strickland as a senior rhetoric teacher, and he has just gone through an entire education. This is Miss Ina's son, Joel. If I'm not mistaken, Ina, did Joel start CBCS in preschool? Yes. So this is the product of preschool through grade 12 at our school, okay? No pressure, Joel. No pressure. So I'm gonna let Wade sort of introduce you kind of the way maybe he did during the senior thesis, because this topic is so good.
Yeah, if it were me, it would be hard for me to come back and stand in front of this crowd and do my thesis after I thought I was through. In fact, he probably had to pull it out of the garbage. Did you have to pull it out of the garbage? But Joel did a topic that I think is really relevant to us, and is something that we've been actually considering and thinking about for a long time. And what I want you to do is Joel started with some kind of he started thinking about really controversial things, and he changed his topic many times, but he settled in on homework. His topic was homework. And I want you to think about, as he talks, and it's a research project, lots of good research and data in here. I want you to think about your homework, the homework you assign. Does it do as much as you think it does? Is it really valuable? Have you made valuable homework? Or is it almost a waste of time and just loading students down with things to do at night? Or are you doing what was done to you when you were in school? Anyway, let me introduce Joel. Joel, come on down. He's probably wishing he was still in bed this morning. And yeah, his title was, if I remember correctly, The Homework Ate My Children. Right? The homework ate my children. I don't remember.
So it's The Homework Ate My Children, Why Homework is Overrated.
All right. Homework is overrated. Okay, please pay attention and feel free just to read it. You don't need to be too. No, we're expecting you to do the same dramatic presentation.
This is your sell right here. Sell it, Joel. Sell it.
Happy students comes rushing into rhetoric class with sparkling eyes and radiant faces. They say, Mr. Wade, I couldn't sleep last night because I was so excited to finally come to school to learn rhetoric and do my thesis. Let's face it, that is delusional. This kind of thing might only exist in fairy tales. Well, ideally, students should long for knowledge and understanding. But over the years, this culture of curious thinkers who loves to learn grows dim because of homework. Instead, late at night in the corner of their rooms, exhausted and frustrated students helplessly plow through paper after paper, crying and begging for release from the psychological toll of homework. They imagine numerous things they could have done if homework did not exist, or if they had not even come to school in the first place. Students have been burnt out for too long before even reaching their final years of high school, and have lost their passion in learning years ago. Schools and every one of us should understand that homework is not really as good as it seems. Let me explain why. So, before going any further, let me explain to you a little bit about homework. Homework begins way back in the 1st century in ancient Rome. Historians suggest that Pliny the Younger would administer homework as means to help his students to practice rhetoric outside of class. In a more modern era, different historical figures continue to administer homework, whether as punishment for citizens, to assert control over citizens, or to produce good factory workers, or also to train well-performing students to compete with other countries, such as during the Cold War. Until today, the world has different attitudes towards homework, but the majority have agreed and adopted this practice. The amount of homework students receive varies for each school, ranging from 10 to 20 minutes in countries like Finland or South Korea, up to 10 times the amount in countries like China. Now, to understand the bigger picture, we ought to understand what is school and education. Derived from Greek, school or schola translates as to guide, and to some extent means schola means spare time, leisure, rest, and ease. Derived from Latin, educare or education translates as to guide, and to some extent means to seduce. These definitions express a clear idea that schools are meant to be interesting, to encourage curiosity while leaving students with an opportunity to rest. Nevertheless, schools today are far from that. This thesis defines homework as any standardized assignment assigned by school teachers intended for students to carry out during non-school hours. This definition is not limited to practice assignments, but also standardized worksheets, projects, and such. However, this definition excludes home study courses, extracurricular activities, or open-ended assignments. An effective homework must fulfill the purpose of school, to engage students to become curious, to implant virtues, and also to provide understanding of lessons, instead of just teaching students how to answer questions. Indonesia's curriculum has had significant changes almost every year and proves to be inconsistent. As a matter of fact, Indonesia's education is ranked 57th out of 65 countries in Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA. Based on statistics in UNESCO 2016, Indonesia also has the second lowest reading interest, with roughly only 1 in 1,000 people interested in reading. This means that Indonesia still has a lot of room to improve. When schools successfully implement correct models of learning, they are able to optimize students' potential the same way they are able to extinguish a child's ambition and cause academic trauma. This is enough reason for schools around the globe to reconsider their homework policies. Schools rarely reform their policies on homework. Most schools allow free administration of homework, subjective to the teacher's needs. Nonetheless, some of the world's best scoring countries have set strict regulations on homework. For example, every school in Finland limits homework to as little as possible at a maximum of 30 minutes every day, and instead encourages their students to read books they find interesting during the holidays, achieving excellent results. As a matter of fact, Finlandian students are able to outperform America in fields of science and mathematics, remaining as one of the best educational systems in the world until today. On this account, schools should avoid giving homework to students for 3 reasons. Homework undermines children's quality of life, homework spends time ineffectively, and homework does not promote learning as desired. Let me explain why. So, contrary to popular belief, homework proves to undermine children's quality of life instead of reinforcing it. In a survey, 1 in every 2 parents reported to have experienced conflict between themselves and their children that involves crying or yelling in the past year because of homework. Homework becomes a burden when it enters home. Exhausted parents arrive home from work and expect to rest, to have quality time with their children, and yet they arrive home just to receive more work in the form of supervising their children's homework. Surely, the role of parents gradually shifts from loving parents into ruthless teachers. The same goes for their role and responsibility in their child's life. As Pliny the Elder said, home is where the heart is. Home is supposed to be a place where children feel socially, emotionally, and physically safe, not a place where children are continually stressing out over homework and getting yelled at. Second, homework has adverse effects on physical health. After a long day in school with no time to rest, children deserve to rest, and for obvious reasons, more work leads to stress and frustration, especially if students find it difficult. Nancy Yuan, director of Children's Help Sleep Center, claims that adolescents would rather sacrifice their sleep than having to remove an activity. These adults claim they feel tired without realizing they are sleep deprived. Sleep deprived students cannot concentrate in school the next day, forcing them to stay up late, ending up in a continuous cycle of sleeping late and not paying attention in school. You know, play and social interaction are equally as important for children, but homework is a nemesis for these two. Homework forces children to isolate themselves in their rooms. It takes time away from children being children, whose job is to socialize and play. Studies in Indian orphanages shows that play have significant effects on children's motoric, cognitive, and also problem-solving skills. A range of evidences also shows that play and social interaction helps children develop empathy towards one another, to adapt not only to their own wishes but also to the wishes of other children. Homework alone cannot teach these skills. So a Dutch historian and cultural theorist, Johan Huizinga, coined a Latin term and philosophy, homo ludens, directly translated as man, the player. This philosophy suggests that man, by nature, desires to play, and play is impossible to remove. Depriving children from play thus prevents them from being productive in society. It does exactly the opposite of what homework is supposed to do. After all, childhood only comes once in a lifetime, and as children grow to become adults, they will gradually outgrow their playfulness to become more serious. So, here and there, we hear parents and teachers say that more homework leads to higher achieving students. They associate achievement with rigor, and rigor with the amount of homework children do. People need to realize that homework does not utilize time effectively and may in fact simply waste it. To be clear, most research on the benefits of homework is often misleading. Most of this research uses correlation instead of causation between variables. When actually homework's benefit depends on a great number of factors, both internal and external. It depends on the kind of homework given, whether questions are fill in the blanks, whether it involves calculations or equations, or even something else. It depends on the child's self-efficacy, the child's interest, or if the child receives external support from parents, tutors, the internet, or etc. However, most researchers generalize all these kinds of variables into one, making their research flawed. After confirming his research with a meta-analysis of over 17 studies, Harris Cooper concluded that homework has negligible benefits for high school students and nearly none for elementary school students. The bottom line is that researches on the benefits of homework mislead society into believing in its exaggerated benefits even when it is not entirely accurate. Additionally, Majority of studies on homework's effects on academic achievement measures academic achievement based on grades and test scores. Usually, tests are designed based on questions in homework. Thus, students who do their homework consequently receives better grades in the test, obviously, but not necessarily perform better on different tests. This is an inaccurate representation of academic achievement. Instead of reflecting a child's ability to learn and grasp information, homework Homework teaches students to become good test takers, to memorize facts or definitions because it will appear in a test, instead of understanding lessons and thinking critically. It makes sense then why homework typically involving practice or repetition often achieves, quote, the best results. According to Bloom's taxonomy, remembering is the lowest form of cognitive skill in education. Remembering means to memorize and recall information such as names, dates, terms, or equations. Remembering is then followed by step 2, understanding, step 3, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and ultimately creating. If the purpose of education is as shallow as achieving good grades or memorizing things, then homework is doing an excellent job. Students spend a third of their day for school and another third for sleeping. All they have left is 8 hours for themselves, not that including the time it takes for a trip from home to school, the time it takes for extra lessons, for dinner, and for getting ready to sleep and prepare for the next day. All they have left is 8 hours for themselves. This adding homework becomes too much, especially because the time it takes to complete homework is simply impossible to predict. The same homework may take several minutes for one student, but an hour for another. Because of this, all too often, students justify shortcuts such as cheating or asking answers from their friends in order to achieve their homework and achieve full marks, making homework pointless. The saying that more homework leads to higher achieving students is then at best a fabled myth if students did not even do their homework. Homework achieves its best results when it is tailored specifically to the differing needs of each student. In spite of that, designing homework of such quality would require too much time from teachers. An effective homework must be assigned with clear purpose, not merely as a routine or busy work. It must not be too difficult, nor take too much time. Students must find it interesting and have a sense of control over the homework. The last 3 points indicate that homework must be personalized for it to work. Then teachers must evaluate each student's performance and give quality feedback for each one. Linda Cameron and Lee Bartel's survey on almost 1,000 teachers in Canada shows that more than half of the teachers surveyed claims that homework significantly adds to their workload. I'm pretty sure every teacher here knows how dreadful it is to check 50 sheets of homework every night, let alone making it personalized for each student. Most importantly, homework does not promote learning as desired. Homework extinguishes students' love for learning. By design, most homework lacks autonomy, which ends up being very restrictive and repetitive for students. This utilitarian approach makes homework feel like a chore, often causing academic burnout. With very limited time, homework pressures students into immediately understanding concepts they learn at school by imitating what their teachers taught in school without even innovating their own solutions to a problem. They are afraid to make mistakes because of the risk and time it takes for trial and error. It reinforces an already defective educational system where students must plow through dozens of similar math questions or memorize every single country Christopher Columbus visited without even understanding the purpose behind it. Students are inclined to be curious thinkers, to learn something new, and to make sense of the world around them. If by any chance they refuse, it means that there is a flaw in the way that schools approach education. For these reasons, students reasonably develop negative attitudes towards school when the goal is actually to promote lifelong learners. Furthermore, extending study through homework causes unintended educational disparity. Homework intends to help students who are left behind to catch up with the rest of the classmates, but different children have different circumstances that may not be suitable for homework. It could be maybe lack of access to the internet, books, or maybe no parent who can help them supervise their children's homework, and etc. Plus, homework also widens the knowledge gap between high-achieving and low-achieving students. Because those who struggle academically may not gain proper understanding of lessons and may instead reinforce misconceptions as they will be left and less interested in studying. Finally, time spent on homework could be spent on something else. For the record, homework scope is limited to subjects that reside within the school's parameters, such as maths or sciences. Learning is not limited to, say, understanding math equations or calculating the speed of a supersonic jet plane. Learning how to play an instrument or participating in a soccer club are all forms of learning that homework alone cannot teach. That school alone cannot teach. Homework takes away any time children have left to nurture their passions and hobbies. Children should choose to spend their time sharpening on something they are passionate about, on something permanent, instead of spending all the times they have on all the kinds of lessons that they will forget. Now, some people might claim that homework is still necessary as practice for students to further improve their understanding of lessons. Surely, practice is necessary for students. For example, for language, math, music, or sports. Nevertheless, practice itself does not have to be carried at home. 8 hours in school every day is more than enough. Without supervision, homework does not encourage students to explore, and teachers also cannot guarantee that students will understand lessons they learn at school. After all, kids work more effectively under supervision at school, where immediate feedback is available from teachers rather than at home. Then one might argue, even if homework has barely any educational significance, homework has other non-academic benefits such as teaching responsibility, diligence, time management, or getting parents involved with their children. Nevertheless, all of us can agree that these values are not only found from doing homework. In fact, these values can be found anywhere else more effectively. Being responsible and thus doing homework does not mean homework is the cause for being responsible. For younger students, parents manage their children's time and responsibilities. Then it may be reckless to conclude that homework helps students become diligent students or manage their time when they do not even have a choice nor any time to manage. So we have explored and tried to understand why schools should avoid giving homework to students. Homework is not only inadequate, it impairs relationships as much as it degrades the quality of life children deserve. Homework does not utilize time effectively and fools people to believe in its exaggerated benefits. Moreover, homework constrains the definition of learning within school's parameters and extinguishes students' curiosity, passion, and most importantly, love for learning. Though immediate change is not possible, schools can begin by reducing the amount of homework and instead resort to more effective class sessions. Schools can utilize open-ended practice, unstructured projects, or open tutoring for struggling students, which reinstates the classical education that we have lost. Reducing homework isn't some far-fetched fantasy. It is a call for all of us to stop taking our situation for granted. You and I have had a fair share of childhood of learning our first instrument or laying down a cause during a lazy afternoon. But what if all of it is stripped away from the future of our children in exchange for papers, pens, and demands of the school? We should rise as advocates for this matter, to rethink if we have been doing enough for our younger generations. We should instill a policy that makes sense, a policy that is true and has value. Let us make it happen together. Thank you.
I know that you are like, give me strength. This is thank you so much. You can see, when did you present this for your thesis? Do you remember?
May.
It was May. It was back in May, wasn't it? Yeah. May of 2024, so about 2 months ago. And I asked him to like dust it off and present it to you. And he did a fantastic job. Give him another hand. I just want to comment, did you notice his poise when he was needing to find his place, when he had kind of lost his train of thought? but did you also notice how much he had within him? It wasn't just reading from a script. Isn't that beautiful? That's beautiful, Joel. You did a great job presenting, but more importantly, the content, wow, is good. So now I'm gonna ask you, and you can use me to help, okay? So, you can punt it over to me, if you're this is a question from Mrs. Strickland. But I wanna let you guys ask some questions and give him a chance to defend this. Because some of you may be sitting there thinking, no, we need homework. I need to do all the homework. Mr. JC's going, no, I gotta do the logic homework. I gotta give, geography homework, and it needs to be really, read the whole chapter before tomorrow so that we can get through the lessons, right? Maybe Abed, he's like, no, we got so much math to do, they have to do 30 problems at night, every night, it just has to happen, right? This is your moment, teachers or staff who've experienced the burden of homework. Ask the questions that this raises for you. Is that okay? We do a little Q&A? All right. Anybody? No, I'm not starting with that. I'm starting with Hans. Did you have your hand raised?
Right.
Alumni to an alumni.
Okay, all right. Hello, Joel. So just a very quick question, and I think this is a very common thread as to people, let's say, of course, people will compare educational levels between different nations. And I think one of the easiest example that we have is Finland, right? But one thing that I always, not necessarily concerned, but just wonder is that, are there any, valid connections that we can make to comparison? Because of course there are many factors that will design an education course, right? Of course, Curriculum Merdeka is not Finland's system, that's pretty obvious. So is it possible to actually make those connections with all the different factors of a nation to another? Thank you. Thank you for asking. I think that's actually an important point to make, because we do need to understand that Finland's educational system is very different from Indonesia's. Same goes for their population and etc. And also their teachers and everything else. So it doesn't mean that we can copy and paste the Finland's educational system into Indonesia, because it won't work with Indonesia's current situation. However, there are several things that we can adopt from Finland's educational system that we can adopt into Indonesia's unique circumstance. For example, one of the points that I can make is that we can learn that in Finland they try to administer homework that is fewer but more thoughtful homework, and they prioritize critical thinking, creativity, and also real-world application instead of because in Finland there's also not much standardized tests compared to the other parts of the world. So they do not really utilize standardized homework that is for example, a list of 30, for example, practice questions or etc. And then we can also learn that in Finland they prioritize nurturing virtues and a balanced lifestyle. And also they prioritize the virtues such as engaging students to love studying, to become more curious, and also at the same time prioritizing their well-being, for example, by giving them extra playtime in school and shortening the school hours. I think that's it.
That's a great answer, thank you. Somebody else? Another question that you're thinking? Jesse, it's not you right now. I'm the teacher controlling the student that I know is we'll get you, but I want to see if there's some other questions first. I'm going to give some space for some other people to ask some questions. Okay, another alumni to alumni. All right. Okay, Felix.
Thank you. So, great presentation, by the way. So my question is related to the how Indonesian higher education and how that actually impacts the homework load given to students at the SMA or SOR level. So there's this, and how it applies to our school as well. So a lot of the times when students graduate from CBCS, let's say, and then they go to a public university in Indonesia, a lot of the times the professor would be teaching, and then they would be, okay, so you should have covered this in high school, right? And so I'm not going to go over that, and then we're just going to keep going, right? And then some alumni and some of my friends, they would be struggling so much with that. Now, the reason that we couldn't cover as much, of course, because of the nature of our school, which is great, that we don't have to cover as much, but we are already limited in that way. And by not giving homework, then the teachers would need to even maybe sacrifice more topics to be learned or to be mastered by the students, right? And so, what do you think about that?
That multum non multa, right? That we've talked about, right? How do you do much, not? I mean, how do you do much, not many, right? That spread versus depth, right? That's a great question. What do you think, Joel?
Okay, thank you for asking. So, I do understand that maybe by reducing homework or by reducing homework, that schools might have like concerns where we will not prepare our students enough because we do not give them enough lessons. However, I believe that schools should more or less be able to cover up most of the materials that students need to prepare before college. And additionally, I think it's actually quite the opposite, because when schools provide students with homework, in a sense, they sort of spoon-feed students into what they should learn. Meanwhile, when schools reduce the amount of homework, students are pushed to actually find what they need to learn, where students are trained to do more independent study compared to just like receiving what they receive from teachers and then like learn all the materials. And I believe this habit of independent study, of like searching what to learn, of like what you love to learn, actually will help in college, because it will help students get used to learning new materials that they have not covered in school.
Yeah, well said, well said. Yeah, give him a hand, that's great. I mean, he's summarizing having the tools of learning, and I would even argue about, I mean, if I'm you, I'm arguing back to Felix, saying, so Felix and your classmates who you feel like maybe CBCS didn't cover all the things that you needed for university, were you able to be successful at university?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think we were equipped with the tools of learning.
Because we knew how to learn. So it's not about, do we need to cover everything that has ever been known to man? Because that's why we have Google. Just saying. I don't need to be Google, because there is a Google. Do you know what I mean? I need to know what is most important, how to think, and how to utilize it well. Right? Like that. Anybody else want to challenge it? Any other questions? Oh man, these are curriculum sheets. It's all the front row people. I'm moving to the back. All you back row people. I'm gonna make y'all talk. Here you go, Johan.
Hi, thank you. For us teachers, it's always refreshing to hear the student's side and point of view of things. This is a very simple question compared to the first two. And I did not read your thesis, so I don't know your like the target audience or the age level that you're talking about. But I have one question that just arose since the first time I heard you speaking. Are you talking from a personal experience?
Yeah, okay, thank you for asking. So, I think, yeah, definitely, because
The answer is yes.
so the reason I actually tried to formulate this thesis is because throughout my high school years, I have earned a lot of complaints from my peers and also from myself, where we feel like we are bombarded by a lot of tasks without that we feel is not being utilized to its maximum potential. What we mean is like maybe there could actually be a method of learning that could actually help us more. And I've also experienced from my friends and also from myself that throughout the years we are getting more and less interested in studying because of school. And I think that's why this is an important topic to actually dive deeper.
Yeah, so Joel, without calling out teachers or anything, but can you, I mean, whatever. It's fine. I mean, really, what we're all thinking is, give us an example. Like, because what I want to be clear, let me ask this question. Are you saying there should never be homework? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay, tell me what you really mean by we need to handle homework better.
Okay, so
Clarify.
I was if it's a bit unclear, let me clarify. So basically, what I mean in my thesis is that the world is, and our school and every one of us is accustomed to homework that is like taken, that has a model taken from the Industrial Revolution, where students, where this type of homework is meant for students, is a utilitarian type of homework where it is meant to prepare students to work in factories. Therefore, it is heavily standardized for each student. Because at that time, the type of work that exists is mostly just factories, which is why. However, this type of homework is still adopted until today, and it still exists in most schools where students must practice through dozens of questions because to prepare them for college and simply for entering college and stuff, when it's actually not the type of homework that is actually beneficial, because especially because times are changing. We should also adapt the way we approach homework and also the type of homework that we give to children. So what I mean by this thesis is that we should shift the kind of homework that we are giving today, reduce it, and also give meaningful homework for students.
Okay, perfect. So you're really talking about progressive education. And what you're saying is CBCS says we're a classical Christian education, but maybe we didn't realize how much we're actually using progressive methods while we say we're being classical and Christian. And they're actually two different things. So my question would be, can you give an example of something that felt meaningless and wasting time, and then what would you suggest? Like, what would you and your friends say, instead of that, this is what we wish we could have been doing? Do you know what I mean? Can you give some kind of example from somewhere along high school?
Okay, so I think the type of homework that would not benefit students as much is homework with rote method of learning, where students repeat stuff again and again, even if they already understand the concepts. What areas or subjects where I think homework would be necessary is for several fields, such as maths, sciences, music, language, or sports. However, for example, for some other subjects that is about knowledge, for example, for history or something else, I believe that homework would not actually benefit students as much, because even if they were to memorize specific terms, dates, or names, they would forget it in a short span, and simply what they will actually remember is what they learned from the lesson itself and what they can learn. And I believe that even we can understand that younger students today, for example, like Gen Z or Gen Alpha, they have shorter attention span. And there are several characteristics, such as having shorter attention span and also their exposure to technology. And thus we should also adapt our approach in education to these students, because as times are changing, we can understand that this Gen Z and Gen Alpha people are actually more interested, they prefer more interactive, collaborative, practical or relevant, and also personalized learning that mirrors the collaborative nature of digital games or maybe social media platform. I think that one of the approach that could engage these students is like making a learning an interesting experience and getting them engaged with the lesson itself.
Okay, so you're kind of talking a lot of theory, and what I hear in that, because if I'm a teacher, I'm thinking, yeah, our goal is to actually help lengthen students' attention spans. Our goal is to push against that cultural impulse that says, just do it quick, do it rapid, do something entertaining and fun. Because that maybe fun is not the same thing as a joyful discovery, right? Because like when you climb a mountain, at the beginning, or maybe midway through the hike, you're like, I'm really tired and I kind of want to quit. But you've got a goal and you want to get to the top, right? So you're going to push yourself to keep going. So it doesn't mean it's comfortable all the time. There has to be some work that's involved. So can you think of a specific example of anywhere in your CBCS career where someone, a teacher somewhere, did give homework that maybe was challenging but that was really enjoyable and engaging as a student?
Okay, so I think one of the examples is from my past year, Mr. Anthony. So he was a history teacher who usually administers homework in a different approach. For example, he would sometimes make projects that are unstructured. What I mean by unstructured is like where he will give a topic and students are free to connect it with different subjects. For example, if I'm interested in design, for example, I could connect this history subject by making a poster or informative project, for example. Well, if somebody else is interested in writing or researching, they could make an article about this historical figure. Hence, by doing this, students are more interested in pursuing the subject that they are about to research in different approaches. And another method that he has been doing a lot is like through gamification or gamifying his educational experience, So sometimes he would also assign like games with like certain, even digital games for students to do during class time, and it has left an impact on the students because they feel like they enjoy doing it and they actually learn something from it.
Okay, right. Yeah, I get it. I think we have just a few more minutes. So are there any other questions from anybody towards the back? Elementary teachers? Because it sounds, Joe, like you're sort of talking mostly about this upper school experience. So think back to elementary years and earlier. I mean, did you feel like your soul was crushed by homework in the early years?
I don't think so. I think
Where did your soul begin to be crushed? At our school. Oh, this is a painful reflection for us. Go ahead. I mean, be honest.
Okay, so I think for early childhood, they're actually doing a pretty good job because they have like... so far as I'm aware, they do not really give students homework because... And then they also give like what is actually just for like these children. For example, like giving them playtime or nap time, for example, so that the students can...
I think we should all employ nap time. No, actually, honestly, when he's talking about play, I wanted to come back. I'm going to interrupt you for a minute. Elementary years, even School of Logic years, are students having time to play? Do students have time to touch grass? Do students have time to visit with each other? Because all of that, it's their mind, their body needs that rest and that rebooting. Let's think about you. Do you like sitting and training for 8 straight hours being talked at? No. Right. So neither do your students. Neither do your students. Sorry. Go ahead. I had to interrupt with that. yeah. So early childhood did a good job. Maybe grammar school.
So I believe grammar school is also. I think for grammar school it's still a bit too much for the students, and I think a grammar school actually needs more rest compared to SOL or SOR student. Well, for SOL and SOR, I think sometimes it's a bit too much for the students.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. I love that honest feedback from an alumni. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to unless someone else raises their hand quickly, as I slowly walk towards Mr. JC. Okay, Professor. Okay, you're gonna, I love it. He says, he was my student, I'm gonna make him shine. The heart of a true teacher right there.
Hey, Joel. It's Yeah, that I can talk again with you, but now not really in private. We're being watched by these people. Hey, just a few days ago, I heard from your mother. Allow me to just kind of inform this to others because this is related to what I will be asking a little bit more later. That you, I mean, during your time now before you start going to college, maybe just a few weeks later or maybe a few months later, you are kind of interested, or maybe your mother is kind of interested for you to be starting to take some piano lesson. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then maybe there's like a place here, a music course here in Kota Baru Parahyangan, and you will be taking a piano course there. And your mother says that you're interested to be learning, you know, specifically a jazz piano lesson, right? So imagine you start these lessons with your instructor, and your instructor gives you a song to, or a composition for you to practice, so that a week later when you meet for the next time, and you will be ready to perform that song, you should be able to master the song from the beginning until the end, including maybe also a little bit of the improvisation and things. And you are given this time, 1 week time, for you to finish your practice. Do you consider that is okay?
I think, yeah, so I think definitely like they could actually extend the timelines. However, if the time is very limited, I believe it will still be okay for the children as long as they enjoy it. Because if students are actually passionate on something, I don't think anyone can stop them from learning.
Yeah. So you will meet this teacher for about maybe half an hour to 1 hour or 45 minutes. And you will be given the methods there, but you are given the homework somehow. So it should be enjoyable. It should be pleasing to the student. What if, because my son, he's 6 years old, and I kind of sometimes have to remind him to practice your song because you will be meeting the teacher in a few days later, and I kind of quote unquote force him to do that. Do you think that is fine? He doesn't feel pleased at that time, but once he performs on the stage, he feels like it feels good. I mean, what do you think about that?
I think for younger age students, it's definitely parents definitely plays a role in like pushing their children, because I believe that, for example, for early childhood students, they have not developed a passion towards specific things, which is why I believe it is good to expose them to a lot of things instead of forcing them to study these specific lessons. And I believe that pushing is still necessary for those younger students.
So homework in this context, especially talking about lessons that involve skills instead of, I just try to make some simplification here, like some sort of theoretical knowledge like learning, logic, philosophy, mathematics, or whatever. This is more about skills. That's fine for you. It's okay. Even though it's not pleasing in the beginning, maybe, a lot of times. Is it fine?
Yeah, I think it's fine as long as you regulate it properly.
Okay. And thank you for using, just a little comment, thank you for using the term homo ludens. I think I talk much about that to your brother, older brother Joshua, the homo ludens squeezing us term, yeah.
Yeah, so Joel, thank you again. It was fantastic. Give him a hand.
Thanks, Joel. I just wanted to tell you about one story that was kind of funny, because we were running out of time to get it all done. All the students were working hard, or they should have been, but they were also really burnt out on Mr. Abed's homework. Or maybe other homework. And so I go back in the back, and I know Joel's topic, and I say, Joel, where are you? You don't look like you're working. And he says, yeah, I know, I'm going to do it at home. You get it? It's about homework.
Do you want to address that?
All right, thank you, Joel, for pulling that out of the
Good job, Joel. Thank you for being representative of an alumni. Now, you're certainly welcome to head out and run away from here far, far away. No, you guys, didn't he do a great job? Yeah.